My name is Officer Franze, and I work for the City of Palm Bay Police Department for 2.5 years. When I was injured in the line of duty, I was shot in the leg back on January 28, 2024. It took me out for approximately 4 months, and when I came back, things were just different internally for me. When I got medically cleared, I was just wanting to come back to work as quick as possible because when I was hurt, I felt useless, I felt weak, I felt like a part of me was dying inside.
It's so meaningful when we see them go through that because it shows them that, you know, the world could potentially knock you down, but you can get back up, and with support, you can keep doing the job. Just because you've been through something traumatic or tragic, and officers see traumatic things all the time, but especially when you've been through something like being shot, that could make anybody want to not come back to the job. And so seeing him get what he needs, to be able to come back and do this job and enjoy the job, man, that means we're doing things right. Like that's a big deal. So that may not go that way for everybody, but the reality is if the resources are there and they use it, healing is possible. And that's an amazing example of exactly what we want to happen. We want people, when they need help, to get help and know that their job is protected and that they have the ability to go back to the job, and he's a prime example of that.
So being a first responder, you see things on a daily basis that changes you, and then you carry that with you throughout your career. So Survive First offers a variety of resources, anywhere from training and education, which is really important, to a scholarship fund. And one of the things we learned over the years with Survive First is most police officers, and I'm going to speak for police officers because I'm a cop, but first responders in general, they don't get the care they need more for the reason of money than anything else. And we all know police officers don't make a lot of money. At the time that I needed help, I was married to a school teacher, so between the two of us, we weren't breaking the bank. And so the co-pays for treatment were so expensive that we couldn't afford to pay them. And that's what we learned for most cops when we would ask them why it was a financial burden. So what we did was come up with a financial scholarship fund, and that's pretty much our biggest thing that we do nationally is help first responders pay for the care that they need. Recently, over the past couple years, Chief Augello had just done a couple things that I have not seen other police chiefs do, to the point where he would call me up and say, "Hey Doug, I got a police officer that I'm really worried about. He's going through a rough time in his personal life. Is there anything we can do as a police department to help him? Do you have any recommendations?" That right there tells you that the care of the officer in Palm Bay comes from the top. And that's really important to know that your care is coming from the top. It's really, if you don't believe that the so-called top of your department, agency, or municipality doesn't believe in you and what you're doing, that's a hard burden to carry throughout the job. So that was one of the most important things that stood out to me, was that here was a young police chief that was doing things that police chiefs that have been chiefs for decades weren't doing. And I thought that was pretty amazing, that he cared more about the person than he did the position. Chief Augello received the President's Award, which is a really big deal for us. The President's Award means that you've done something above what the average person would do in this organization or in this industry, above and with a pure heart. A lot of people do stuff for agendas, some do it for other reasons, but to do it with pure heart and to do it with nothing in return, meaning no recognition, not going up on TV and telling everybody how great you are, things of that nature, that stands out amongst organizations like us. And so Chief Augello received the President's Award, which is the highest award that we give out, and that is actually a national award. So that can go anywhere in the nation. Anybody that we deal with throughout the year, which is any police department from Alaska, Hawaii to Maine to Florida, we've dealt with every police department and every national disaster. So anything that you've seen on the TV this year, from the bridge collapsing in Baltimore to the Trump assassination attempt in Pennsylvania, we've dealt with all those people and those organizations. We go up there and provide training, education, and we also, as I like to say, put a Band-Aid on the bleeding. Most of the officers are struggling and they need a Band-Aid to kind of just help them, get through the next few times. So, but one of the things we noticed was throughout this year, it wasn't a one-time event, it was a continuous event. And like I said earlier, when a police chief calls an organization and just says, hey, I'm concerned about one of my employees, and doesn't want to be involved because doesn't want to scare anybody or scare the person, but just says, I care about this person, what can we do to help them be a better version of themselves, and what can we do to help them? And also to keep from reoccurring incidents happening, like traumatic events that happens quite a bit. One of the things we learned this year was there was I think it was last year, if I know it correctly, 4 suicides were reported for the state of Florida. And that comes from an organization that does some tracking. And what FDLE did is they didn't believe that, and they went and did their own investigation. And what they found out is that there was 44 police suicides in the state of Florida in 1 year. So that's a pretty big gap. So it's and that's a lot for amount of years. So to have a police chief who continually goes throughout the year to make sure their employees are protected and being the best, healthy and happy and best version of themselves, that right there is enough to say, it's our version of saying thank you.
When you go through an incident, which we've had several over the last 2 years, where we've had officer-involved shootings, we've had officers that were shot, that's what people don't understand that don't wear the uniform, right? And I'm gonna be blunt. They don't understand that we will go to a scene or respond to a call for service when somebody's calling 911, looking for help, and we will show up to a scene, not knowing who any of these individuals are, but truly willing to sacrifice our own life and well-being to do one thing, and that's to take care of that person that called 911. So folks that do not serve in a public safety capacity, in public service, will never understand that, what it truly does take for that. So to get shot in doing that, right? But like, oh, that's part of your job. No, it's not. It's nobody's job to get shot, right? But the men and women that don this uniform every day, they understand that that's a possibility, but they still respond. We're talking about life here, life. Not talking about budget. We're not talking about equipment. We're not talking about strategies or problem solving in terms of crime. We're talking about life. That's what it's about. For me, it's paramount to everything that we do here as public safety officials, as law enforcement, as first responders. There has to be a component of wellness, everyday wellness for our men and women, from police officers to our crime scene technicians, to our dispatchers, to our record specialists and property and evidence technicians. We got to be able to take care of one another. And in order to take care of one another, we have to have resources that are readily available. And before even having those resources available for each and every one of us, we have to break the stigma or overcome the stigma that has been prevalent through over the years, you know, in law enforcement and first responders in general, that you can't talk about it. You know, certain mental health issues or you know, post-traumatic stress and things like that, anxiety. Those were things years ago when I started that we didn't talk about. You know, so for me, wellness is truly, it's like I said, paramount to what we have to do as law enforcement officers, public safety entity, to provide a level of service for our community. And you know, for us to be able to do that righteously and protect the men and women of this city in Palm Bay, you know, we have to protect the men and women of this organization. Survive First, Doug and Karen Monda, they're two great human beings. You know, everybody is familiar with Doug's story, you know, as a first responder, as a SWAT cop, and the life that he lived and the story that he has been telling for several years now, which is what sparked the Survive First initiative and the organization and the conglomerate that it is today, nationwide, and I would even venture to say worldwide. They're recognized everywhere. You know, it was super important for us to partner with them, or at least collaborate with them, because of the wealth of knowledge they have in the field of wellness for first responders and for military vets and families of our first responders and vets. You know, they have resources throughout the state, throughout the country that, let's be honest, locally we don't have those resources, as many as there should be. So in partnering with them, collaborating with them, being a part of their family, it's not just being a part of the Survive First family, it's being a part of this initiative of well-being and wellness throughout the country for our first responders. So it's key and critical with the mission of taking care of the men and women and their families as they move forward and traverse through their career.